Welcome everyone to this new episode of our program, Changing Tracks. With us today, we have a young woman from Ireland, Niamh Palmer. Niamh, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm a little nervous, but I'm good.
Okay, could you introduce yourself briefly? Tell us who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Niamh, obviously. I'm 24 years old. I come from a family of 5. So my twin sister and I, we have 2 older sisters and an older brother. I'm a student. I study theology and philosophy. I was raised Catholic. Received my sacraments in school, which is traditional here in Ireland.
So you grew up in a Catholic family?
Yeah, so like most Irish families, we're Catholic and we would go to Mass on Sunday, and in school like we would receive the sacraments, but that was the extent of it. We didn't really, like the sacraments were important in my family. My mom would make sure that we were prepared for the sacraments, but yeah, okay. And yeah, we just would go to Mass on Sundays. We didn't really pray or anything. We would have never prayed the rosary or anything.
And during the teenage years, would you say that they were difficult for you? Was God a part of your life at that time?
No, not really. Some of my friends in school would say they were atheists or they didn't believe in God. I would never have went as far as to say I didn't believe in God, but God definitely wasn't a part of my life. When I was 14, my dad died, and I guess for me that awakened some sort of idea of heaven or God, I guess. The extent of my formation was in school, so that was all we knew about heaven. So in a way that opened my eyes to God and things like that, but that was the extent of it. And because my sister and I were the youngest, once we got to secondary school, we stopped practicing. We didn't really go to Mass on Sundays anymore, and because that was the extent of our practicing, that was it really.
So when you say that when your dad died it made you think about heaven, in what sense? As in, you wanted to go to heaven, or was it almost like a rejection of God?
Well, it definitely wasn't that I wanted to go to heaven, because heaven was for dead people. I guess because I don't in Ireland we everyone goes to heaven, and so for me it was more of a way of thinking that my dad was in heaven. More so, it wasn't really about me, or it wasn't about God. It was nothing supernatural or anything. And I guess subconsciously I had built up an anger towards God, and because some of my best friends would say they were atheists, more and more I was well, maybe I am too. But I could never quite get to the point of saying something like that. But I was more and more, I was moving towards not really having a belief in God. I didn't know there was such thing as having a relationship with God. I didn't know that existed, that people did.
Okay, so you stopped going to Mass and didn't have a relationship with God. So with your atheist friends, did you go out with them, partying, drinking?
Yeah, I guess we were still young. We were only 14 and 15, so we we didn't do those things. But we were very worldly, if you like. Makeup, hair, shopping, excess, buying loads of makeup, loads of clothes. I would always dye my hair different colors. Boyfriends, I always had a boyfriend, even when I was that young. And then as we got older, yeah, we got more into, when we became to be 16 and 17, then we started going out, my friends and I and my sister. And I built up a reputation fast. And me and one particular girl in the group, we had to be the wildest one, the life of the party.
And did that fill you? When you were the life of the party, did you feel that truly satisfied you?
No, it was a very difficult reputation to uphold, because it wasn't natural for me. I'm naturally outgoing, and now I'm still outgoing, but I'm outgoing I'm myself now. Before, I was outgoing to hide anything else that was going on inside of me, so it wasn't natural for me. It was very empty. I remember like I still clearly remember like nights standing at the bar or being out on the dance floor, and well, one, being so out of it, but two, like not being out of it enough to hide the emptiness within me. And even though I was the life of the party and I would keep going for the sake of my friends, I was still always the one that was ready to go, you know, at 11:30 or 12 o'clock. But we still had to always end up in the nightclub, which didn't open until that time. So it was a very difficult, time, because then I had to drink the most, I had to dance the most, I had to be, you know, the most impure that I could be to keep that reputation. And I mean, there were 60 girls in my year in school, and everyone knew that I had this reputation. But even the night, but the days following those nights, it was very difficult. It would be very empty.
So at that point, 16 or 17 years old, God didn't really have any part in your life, did he?
Not really, no. I know now, looking back, it was because I was so broken that the idea of God or faith would upset that, because in a way I was fine, you know, I had it all under control. But when I was in third year in school, which you're usually about 16 or 17, we got a new religion teacher. And before that, like our teachers, it was a Catholic school, but again, a typical Irish Catholic school. But this teacher that came, she was like, genuinely was Catholic, and she loved the Lord a lot, and she tried to teach us like true like catechism, true Christianity, and most of the time we didn't want to hear it. But at the end of the year, she invited us to like volunteer at a summer camp that she was having in the town. And now I can say maybe it was God, but I don't know in that moment why I volunteered, and I made my friends volunteer with me because I don't do anything by myself. So I made like 4 or 5 of them come along with me. It was just a kids' summer camp. We were just there to help the kids, but it's a very interesting experience because they would pray the rosary, they went to mass every day, they would tell stories from the Bible, stories we didn't know. And through that we met some people from U2000.
What's Youth 2000?
So U2000 is a Catholic organisation for young people from 16 to 35. So I was 16, but my friends weren't. So we didn't go that year. But the next year, we went to the summer camp again. Like nothing really happened in that year. We didn't start going to mass or anything. Like we didn't have a profound experience at the summer camp the first time. But the next year, they started to have adoration there at the summer camp, and like they would need volunteers and stuff to go. I did my best to avoid it because I didn't know what it was. But again, we met the same people from E2000, and they invited us to come this year because we would be, like, all of us were old enough. So we went along, and yeah, to the retreat that summer.
What happened at that retreat? Is that when you finally had an encounter with God?
Yeah, well, it was the start of it. It was a long journey, but that was certainly the start of it. So 4 or 5 of us went along to this retreat, and when we got there, there was about 1,000 people there because it was in the summer, so it was their biggest event of the year. So there was about 1,000 people there, and they were all like happy and like dancing and everything, and which was very unusual like for us because you had to like be drunk to be doing the things they were doing, no? So we were there, and they had adoration and mass, and it was all very unusual. Like I couldn't pray the rosary. I didn't know how to say the Hail Mary. And my sister and one of my friends, they decided to go home, and I'm like a home bird. So when my sister and my friend was leaving, I was like, oh, like I want to leave too. But again, that same thing that made me volunteer for the camp made me stay. So me and a friend of mine stayed, and they have different like talks and stuff throughout the day. None of these really had an effect on me. I wasn't at a level of like understanding what they were saying. But on a Saturday night they have like confession, a healing service and everything. And they invite everyone to go to confession if they want to. And they like read an examination of conscience. I'd never heard that. I mean, I'd learned the 10 Commandments in school, but that was it. and my friend wasn't going to confession, so I was like, oh, well, I'm not going, like, no way. And again, the same thing in me was like, no, like, you should go. Like, I had come to this retreat, I had stayed, I'd put myself through that. Like, and if I didn't go to confession, like, what for? What was I, like, put myself through that for? So I decided to go to confession, and I waited in line for a long time. And I was gonna, like, not go because I was so ashamed. I didn't know even what to confess. But I ended up going to this really nice priest. He was like, he really put me at ease, and yeah, he was just really lovely. And I confessed like the things I would always confess, like when I was young. A lot of the things I was doing or did, I didn't know they were sins, so I wouldn't have confessed them. But he knew I had something else to say, and I didn't even know I had something else to say, but so I just blurted it out, and I said, you know, I'm really angry at God for what he's done to me, what he's done to my family, and I just couldn't understand him. And what the priest said was simple, and I still remember it. And at the time I was like, what do you mean? But he said, ask him, ask God why that happened. And yeah, that for me was the moment that I changed. Well, it took a few years to get me where I am now. That was a moment where like things changed.
So after that confession, after that first encounter with the mercy of God, what happened? What did you do? Like, did you change your attitude?
Yeah. I was able to like really pray more in the Mass and everything. Because for me, Mass was just boring and it was long. And at these retreats, it tends to be longer. So like it was boring and whatever. But I really began to like slowly open my heart. It's not that I understood what was going on still, but I slowly opened my heart to understand that there was something going on in front of me, and that it was, especially in adoration, because they have the monstrance like exalted almost on like it's called a burning bush, but it's just candles. And I slowly began to realize that that was Christ before me, and it made me like try and be more reverent and everything and appreciate what was going on. And in the end, I was very sad to go home. I didn't change massively when I went home. We joined, there was a U2000, they have prayer meetings all around the country, and there was one in our town. So we joined it, and we would go there every week, but that was kind of the extent of it. We didn't go to Mass on Sunday or anything.
Okay, so you start going to these prayer meetings. Then what happened? Was there anything that kind of clicked inside of you? Something you heard that gave you direction, that made you change?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few more clicks after that, because like I'm stubborn and I wasn't like ready just to change like that. I knew I had to change, but after that retreat, I was still in school, so we were still going out on a Saturday night, and I was still living that very like material life. And even though I knew even more so now that it was totally empty. So time passed, nothing really changed. We would go to the prayer meeting on a Tuesday night, and slowly we would start to go to Mass like on a Sunday, not because we knew we had to or anything, just because we kind of felt like we should. So we wouldn't go every Sunday, but we started to go. And time passed, and I graduated school and I went to university.
What did you study?
Very briefly, I was studying English and history in Limerick, and that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher, but I hated it. So I dropped out, and again that opened the door for God in my life, because I just really didn't know now what I was meant to do. So I really didn't do anything. So again, months passed. My relationship with God the relationship I had been building up with kind of fell back again, because again, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know why it didn't work out.
Did you have a spiritual director at this time, or someone who could help you?
Well, it's not fair to say no one was helping me, because we were still going to that prayer meeting and there was great people there. But a spiritual director, no, I didn't even know if that was. So no, not really. But there was people in my life and friends in my life that helped me and still do help me a lot. And then a year after I graduated from school and had dropped out of university and everything, I joined a community for young people here in Ireland.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I knew the people setting it up. They were friends of mine, and they said, it would be great for me and I would be well suited to it and everything. And at first I was like, no, like why would I do that? But at the same time, I wasn't doing anything else with my life and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I might as well give it a go. And there, finally, like I had some formation. We studied the catechism. But a big part of it was going to Mass every day and having adoration every day and praying the rosary every day. And just having that stable interaction with God. Slowly, like I began to see the way I had been living was really damaging me. And at the same time, it was very difficult because I realized this was like 5 or 6 years after my dad had died, and slowly but surely, like spending that much time with the Lord, I realized that really I hadn't grieved at all. Like it could have just happened the day before. So while it was amazing, it was also very difficult for me. But I knew the Lord was close to me, and my relationship with the Lord reached a new level in one way, and in another way it didn't, because I was still living a very material life. It sounds probably ridiculous to most people, but I was very materialistic. I would spend a lot of money on clothes and nice clothes and makeup and all of these things, even in community, still even in that community, because I still couldn't trust God enough that He would look after me. And really I despised myself, and not in a holy way. I really hated myself for the things I had done. I blamed myself for things that went wrong in my family, even though I was only young. It had nothing to do with me. And I tried to fill those holes with nice clothes and makeup and everything.
When you say that you were in a community, is that like a community for lay people?
Yeah, so it was a community for young people, guys and girls. It was like a formation community to pray together, to study the faith together. Before, it was kind of set up as a gap year idea, before university.
Okay, so you had an experience with the Lord, but you were still very tied to the world. Looking back at it now, what do you think it was that was holding you back?
I was very broken, because in school I was the popular girl. I had it all together. I mean, I was in no way very studious or anything. My grades were terrible, actually. But I was so much fun. I tried to keep that up when I was in community and everything. But I had deep wounds in my heart from the things that had happened in my life. And really I had no relationship with God. God the Father, I had no relationship with Him. And I began to really struggle with my own mental health, severe depression, a severe eating disorder, and I just couldn't trust that the Lord, I just didn't feel good enough to go before Jesus. I couldn't look at Jesus in the Eucharist. I couldn't look to a priest during Mass. I had to look away always. And it was just a continuation. It was of this materialism that I had. When the world didn't fill me, I had to find something else, rather than really just give my broken heart to the Lord. I had to fix it myself first.
What was it that healed you?
I was an outpatient of one of the best services here in Ireland. I took the strongest antidepressants that you can get. But what healed me, those don't heal you. They can give you a cure or a Band-Aid or something, but they don't heal you, because only the Lord Himself can heal you. But as I say, I couldn't look at the Lord. So it was really Our Lady, the Rosary. I never let go of my rosary beads. We prayed together every day, the rosary, but even by myself, I mightn't be praying it, but I always had the rosary on my hand or in my hand. I would sleep every night with my rosary, because I was so afraid of what tomorrow would bring that I knew. But if I knew I had my rosary beads, like I'd be okay. And after that year was over, I had the opportunity to go on a pilgrimage to Medjugorje. I had been to Medjugorje several times before, but this time I really had to beg Our Lady, because I couldn't live the way I had been living anymore. I was living the Catholic life, but I was so unwell, like at a point of being really dangerously unwell and living this double life. So I begged Our Lady to heal me. And I know Our Lady doesn't heal, it's Jesus that does. And in that moment, it's not like I stood up and I was fine or anything, but slowly over time, the Lord began to heal me, and those like habits, a lot of those habits just fell away. I became a nanny for a Catholic family who had 7 children at the time. And that's a huge part of it too, because they loved me so much, the children, the parents, and I loved them. And just through those, it was just so natural to be with them. And when little kids don't care, you know, they just love, and the kids just loved, and it was such a healthy and safe environment. So it was at that pilgrimage, that moment, where really I opened my heart to my mother, and I came home and I started to work for this family. I really wanted to be holy, but at the same time, like, I was like, I don't want to be Catholic anymore if this is it, because I was praying every day and all this, but I was still like very down, like, yeah. And slowly Our Lady was working in my heart, but I didn't have any joy still. And a few months later, maybe a year and a half, half a year later, these sisters came to show us a movie of Sister Clare Crockett, who is an Irish sister who died in an earthquake in Ecuador. And I don't know if it's because she was Irish or because she was young. I was like, that was the missing piece, the joy which she had, and it had nothing to do. Someone might watch this and say, oh, yeah, but obviously she wants to be a nun or something. But really, it had nothing to do with a religious vocation at all. I just saw the joy that she and her life radiated, and I said, that's a true Catholic, and that's what I wanted.
So, what do you do from there? Did you find true happiness? Was that the last thing you needed to change your life? I don't know. Did you find the Lord?
No. So I'd seen the movie, and I spoke with the sisters, the servant sisters of the Home of the Mother. They had just founded in Ireland, and they were going to found in my town. And they invited me to go with them to Spain. And I went. I guess it's the same voice in me that said, go to that summer camp, go to this summer festival, told me to say, yeah, go with them. The sister there, she said, like, I don't know if this is mad, but we're going to Spain in 2 weeks if you want to come. And I was like, yeah. And I spent just a few days with them. And then that summer, 2018, I went and I spent, like, I think a month there in their house in Spain. And again, you can say, oh yeah, but she obviously wanted to join them and whatever. But again, it wasn't that, because I didn't join them. It was because they lived as true Christians. There was no mediocrity, no superficiality. The girls there, you know, it was just their witness of like being a true Christian in all areas of your life. And that was the moment where it's taken years. I'm still changing, still converting, but it was that moment that I truly like wanted to change. I truly desired to change.
Was it worth it? Are you happy?
Yes. Can say I'm truly happy. Even since the first time that I met those sisters to now, a lot has changed and a lot has happened. But I am the happiest I've ever been. It by no means means that every day I'm in great mood or anything, and I still struggle, you know, with sadness. And the cross of my father's death is a very heavy cross, and it's a cross that won't ever go away. But I'm so thankful for the Lord for those crosses, because I would have never searched for him if those things didn't happen to me. Yeah, truly I'm the happiest I've ever been.
There could be a lot of people watching you right now. What would you say to someone watching who is in the same situation as you and hasn't yet experienced what you have? What would you say to them?
I would say the same thing that people said to me years ago. Persevere, keep persevering, be consistent. Keep praying, even when it's like the last thing you want to do. And I know it's so cliche, but keep praying the rosary, keep praying the Hail Mary. Even if it's just one Hail Mary a day, Our Lady will find you and bring you to her Son.
Thank you, Niamh, for sharing your testimony with us. I'm sure it will do a lot of good.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Persevere, 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 persevere. It's hard. Yes, I know. But you have to persevere. The Lord is there. He's there and He's the best. So, persevere. Thank you. Thanks for watching.